Welcome to Bibliobrainwaves, where pages breathe, ideas pulse, and wisdom moves through mind, body, and spirit, like a quiet current. This is a space where books are felt, not just read, where written words become waves and waves become wisdom. Hi guys, it's Zakiyah with another episode of Bibliobrainwaves, and I'm here with a special guest today. Her name is Sherry, and she's a therapeutic expressionist. I love that phrasing for her, and I just love it. So we're going to learn about what that means to her and how it helps her and how it could possibly help us if we decide we want to look into it more. So, introduce yourself, Sherry. Anything you want to share?
Yes.
We're ready to listen. We're ready to learn.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here. My name is Gabrielle Thomas. I go by Sherry Yell, and that's my artist name. I'm a singer songwriter. I produce, I make beats, but my journey ended up kind of going from artist to a music therapist in school. And those 4 years learning music therapy definitely changed my life, may have saved my life, as challenging as they were. But learning a creative arts therapy as an artist, coming out of that, I had to really focus on my own mental health and my own PTSD and grief. And that just kind of shifted my journey to where I'm still an artist, but I'm on a mission to support and empower people to get more out of everything that art teaches us, everything that music teaches us.
Mm-hmm.
And my journey extended into learning about something called cuddle therapy. And when I went into cuddlist training, I feel like so much of what I wanted to continue to learn and elevate in and evolve was really fulfilled there. And I turned a new chapter to where, I think we're always still growing, we're always still healing, but it's been such an honor to really carve my own path in doing what I love, which is, yes, music and performing and recording, but is also supporting other people and helping other people to find their own voice and be proud and embodied in it. And that took me so much time, and learning so many different things, and just being nurtured and guided in these really meaningful ways. And so I just want to introduce these ideas in a way that many different people can receive it in the ways that they need to. I believe in a multi-sensory approach, a multimodal approach, because there's so many layers to how we experience things and how they're fully processed. So
Yeah.
I am developing my own method of what therapeutic expression means. I call things kind of the Yell method, or the Yell principle. And so getting to see that make its impact in supporting my clients one on one, and my groups has been really inspiring and really awesome. And so I'm just appreciating another platform to get that word out, and yeah, to just keep doing what I'm doing. It's too early in the day for me to make full sense and be concise, so bear with
Makes sense.
me.
It made sense to me. I'm curious about this cuddle therapy though. Where did you find that? Like, I've never heard of that as a thing. Like, are you cuddling strangers? Like, what's happening? What does that look like?
Yeah, so years ago, in the, I guess, around 2015, 2016, I'd heard about it, and I didn't realize it was like a real therapeutic practice. I just thought it was so funny and so cute. And I'm the hugger and the cuddler of like my friends and my family. And so I saw this, and like we were just, the ads online, and there were so many different ads. Some of them were funny, and I think we're cheeky and playing on the idea.
Mm-hmm.
So I looked into it, but it was more of like a funny thing in that moment. But later on, I was trying to pay off these student loans now, and knowing that I didn't want to go into music therapy because I was kind of too hurt, and wanting to protect, my actual dream, and knew that, I didn't want to be conflicted between focusing on clients or focusing on my creativity and kind of finding my own flow. So I didn't go into it. So I was just driving Uber and driving Lyft and doing all these different jobs. Some of it was working with kids and different things, and kind of feeling like I was sitting with all this, intense experience and internship wisdom and knowledge and curiosity and passion, and it was like, where can I channel it? So, something in me is in that position around 2022 or something like that. COVID made time so blurry in that era, but I remember going, let me see what this cuddle therapy thing was actually about. Because while I was laughing with my friends, it resonated with me because I believe in affection and warmth and that human connection. So I was like, let me actually see what that was. And I was so amazed and so moved by what a group of people or groups of people had actually put the time in to develop as a healing modality, as healthcare.
Yeah.
What's really driving it, in my opinion, is the coaching of boundaries of consent and healthy communication. How empowering that can be, and then bringing relational platonic touch to that. So, when you scour the internet for cuddle therapy, some things you're finding a number of different terms because it's not a regulated field yet. So you're finding people who are pro cuddlers, who will book sessions for money, where they may be really nice, they may be really supportive, but they hadn't necessarily gone through a like third party training experience or certification. Some folks who are holding platforms where people can match with people who provide these kind of services, but it's almost indistinguishable from like a dating service. And then you have folks who go through specific training experiences. Maybe it's through Cuddlist, maybe it's through Cuddle Sanctuary, and they actually learn a modality that builds on their natural intuition as an empathetic, huggy person, but actually gives them a framework to work through Cuddlist that looks like the code of conduct, which I love and was so well designed. That looks like an opening agreement, which we do in every session. Sometimes if you're ADHD like me, it can be easy to forget, but it's such a crucial part that you really apply. So if I forget in the beginning, it's like, hey, you know what? We didn't do this time. Let's just acknowledge this again. And so it's really incredible when you take, and I'd say this with music too, right? Touch, creativity, there are things that can come so naturally to all of us, or to some of us, right? If it doesn't feel like it comes naturally to you, you'd be surprised what happens when you get with the right person who can help you just remove whatever's in the way, how actually natural to you it can be. But these things like our creativity and human touch, while they can be really natural to so many people, there's a different depth and realm of possibilities when you then match it with study and clinical expertise and just a method and some sort of framework. And there's still so much room for kind of free flow and discovery, and really creating your own process and being supported in a very individual, unique way. Even within that, I'd say that training actually supports that in a way that stays safe, which is most important, right? I'm cuddling with strangers, but I'm not just randomly meeting with any random person who's like, hey, I want to pay you for an hour. There's so much more thought and care that goes into it. And so I encourage folks who are interested and are intrigued in either doing this work or booking a session with someone. I think there's a different level of safety and value that comes from what that kind of training and communities provides. We have our own supervision methods where you can do mentorship, you can experience peer supervision, and I think any therapist would tell you that That's invaluable from an accountability standpoint, from a safety standpoint, and from someone who is truly passionate and invested in providing the best possible care that they can to themselves and to their clients. So that's my that's my opinion on that. I hope that's not too much information at one time, but there's a lot to dive into when it comes to cuddle therapy.
Yeah, no, there's never too much information. What you can share is what's needed. Um, but I definitely do understand the concept behind it because when you talk about cuddle therapy, you think about touching someone and humans, I mean, of course, due to COVID and for whatever other personal reasons people may have, they have a hard time thinking about uh connecting in that way with someone that they're not even related to or in a relationship with in general. So they're like, why? Like, no, that's weird. But then if you think about it on a spiritual level, we're all connected anyway. We're just spirits having a human experience. And I think it's important for people to understand that the idea that people need that connection. And I know that there's also such a thing as protecting your energy. Of course, we talk about that. Um, and that's important too, to protect yourself when you make these connections. And that's okay. And even being uncomfortable when entering into doing something like that or exploring something like that. Um, Feeling uncomfortable during that is normal. But to explore new ways of connection with yourself and with others is also important. So yeah, I definitely encourage what Sherry's talking about here. Because I've never heard of it, and I know after I get off of this call, I'm definitely going to check it out myself because it sounds really interesting and just beyond anything I would have ever even thought of. But yeah, so tell us about um I guess your music. Tell us more about your music and what that journey has been. What do you sing about? Or are you rapping? Is it more flowetry? Like, what's the vibe?
Yeah, awesome. You shared so much, and I could talk about cuddle therapy for days. So there's like so many like follow up thoughts that I'm having, but um,
I want to share that too.
okay. Let's circle back to cuddle therapy because I appreciate you asking about my artistry, and and it all connects at some point in any way.
Yeah.
Um, my music, the music I've released so far, is very much rooted in vulnerability,
Hmm.
um, in grief, um, and in a desire for intimacy. I think in a desire for a connection and a sense of safety with everybody, with the world and with my community, for my community. I think being black comes with a different relationship with safety. You know,
Mm.
I was recently watching a video and someone was talking about, how the black experience comes with this like sense of calm and chaos because it's like, you adapt to the uncertainty of your safety in different ways, or the lack of guarantee about certain things, and things aren't assumed. So you know humans are resilient, so we do this thing where it's like, well, here we go again, or let's take it like it is. And things can be going crazy, and a lot of the times you may see us like, yeah, well, it's another day. I just got to go to work and just kind of keep on, with it, and regardless of what's happening. Um, and I think that's also part of why being able to provide opportunities to peel back that layer is important, because that's true, and that's such a thick skin, and that's such a resilient thing. I feel like both my parents, experienced things growing up that they did an amazing job making sure that I didn't know anything about from my own experience, but they
Mm.
also still found their own way to pass down that thick skin. And so, now for me, it's like, yes, we may have this thick skin, we may have this relationship with creating our own safety in our own community, but how can we also create a way to address the trauma, create a way to address, the wounds and the things that, have gone less spoken about, or, the way that I've found passion in carving my niche, or, narrowing my focus, is in where I think we've, even where they're addressed, it's often in a very limiting way, or in a very specific way that may only be effective for, to a certain extent, or for a certain group of people, or whatever it is. And so I'm aiming to bridge gaps. Don't know how I got here, but my artistry is my artistry is coming from my desire to express without the limit of fear and shame, but also leaning into those same uncomfortable or challenging spaces, whether it ends up sounding happy and exciting, or whether it ends up sounding more somber and solemn. I think the beauty of music is the process of it, and getting to work with a music therapist who is my psychotherapist, and getting to, learn how to do a different level, a more education-based level as an undergrad, really gave me an appreciation for the process of being human, and then creating music, or relating with music in a way that has a more profound impact on one's mental health, emotional health, spiritual or relational health. And even when it comes to, dispelling certain myths or limiting beliefs, I don't rap, but I've gotten to unlock and tap into different parts of myself as a songwriter, writing raps, and in getting to record them, to, because when you're writing, you have to record the idea so that the song can have, like this demo reference. And even getting to write songs and produce songs that, I wouldn't necessarily release as an artist, but the practice of creating and being open to that flow is an experience that, as a being, you still stretch. And so, I think any experience that is safe, that is constructive, even however it sounds, however it may look to the outside, it's an experience where a part of you is stretching. These neural pathways are developing, and you're leaving a comfort zone and taking a step forward into who you are. And that's, I think, what the heart of therapeutic expression is about. You mentioned being uncomfortable is normal, and yes, in a sense, but I think, it's worth it to mention that something, having that initial discomfort, is normal, but then it's not just about powering through it. How can we be friends with our nervous system? It's not just, suck it up and go. It's also, okay, well, how can we learn to ground? How can we learn to regulate through the process? Can we learn to co-regulate, which means somebody else outside of you, if we can be willing to let someone into that space, someone outside of you is supporting you and is working with you in that moment, not just pulling you along to, push past the moment. Pushing past can be great, but it's even more effective, and you'll have more longevity in whatever you're doing, whether we're just talking about life, or talking about a career, or talking about creativity. There's more options that might be more effective than just the pushing along and pushing through. We can pause, we can be still, and find the methods that are supportive for you to stay present for your nervous system to not be, having a part of you here and a part of you there while you're trying to go through this experience. If you can bring all of you and not leave your body behind, not leave your inner child behind, not leave, your empathetic part behind, and not leave, your tough, thick skin behind either. If they can all connect and be with you in an experience, then you might just end up being unstoppable. If you're willing to go through the discomfort, but also to affirm your right to find your own comfort and find comfort in a different way. Because you're not supposed to stay that uncomfortable. You deserve to find safety and security and groundedness and peace through stimuli that might be uncomfortable, but you might end up finding yourself quite comfortable in your own authenticity. So, eventually we got to kick the discomfort out because you found safety in yourself.
Yeah, I love that you said that because that really touched on a memory that I had when I was in college studying to be a life coach. And I had to go through a practicum where I had to do some inner work to connect with my inner child and the different levels of myself that got me to where I am now. And that project was like the hardest project because you never, or I mean, very rarely are you really taught how to dive into yourself and reach to touch those or touch and connect with those shadows of yourself that you might not have been, trying to fix and trying to really see yourself for who you are. Because I know for me, I knew I was a flawed person. I knew what I needed to work on, but I didn't know how to do it. And the first step that I took was looking back and saying, where was I at before? Did I change anything from before? Am I still feeling the same feelings from before? What does that connect to? What trauma was that from? And I feel like I'm really blessed to have a very vivid memory, kind of cursed because I feel like I'm kind of cursed, but also like it's a gift because I can really remember the times that affected me and really dive into that and dig in, and but not to a point of exhaustion because of course that's unhealthy, but to really see what those patterns are that I'm still repeating, so then I can do that deep work. And, once I learned that, that's what I do with my clients. I talk with people about how to navigate those traumas, and how it relates to where they are now in life. Um, because a lot of people kind of know, like, okay, some people don't even believe in karma. Some people don't believe that there's ancestral ties that can affect you now that are from decades before. Um, and that connection is really important, and then connecting it with different therapies, different modes of therapy is very important too. I like that more psychologists and just psychotherapists in general are really starting to get into different modalities of healing, um and really seeing that art is important. It's important to express yourself. It shouldn't be just talk therapy. It could be nature therapy, which is what I do. I love sitting outside with people, having them listen to the elements in silence, and just understanding that there's different ways to connect with the world, connect with yourself, and that there's no one trick pony, as people say. um and that's really important for people to hear that, like, I before I met you, I never knew there was such a thing. Like, I'm still tripping over the whole cuddle therapy thing because I'm like, wait a minute. um because I used to be an avid hugger when I was younger, and then as I got older and I was dealing with bullying and things like that and a lot of negative energy exchanges, I stopped hugging people, anybody, for 6 years. And then I moved here to Arizona, and I got my first hug in a very long time, outside of my husband, of course. But, and I just cried, and I was like, I don't like this. And the person I know, but kept hugging me. but it was a very spiritual experience because I was like, I miss that feeling when somebody gives you a genuine, like, embrace. It's different from a, hey, what's going on? What you got going on? You know? But that real, like, that you can sit in feels so different. So I get it. I can understand why that would be a thing. Um, yeah, go ahead.
Thank you so much for sharing that. That's such an interesting. It sounds like you've just had such a really interesting journey, um, and it's always, isn't it fascinating how our own process really inspires like how we end up shaping what we do, and how we end up sharing, what we're taught and what we're trained in. But I just appreciate you being who you are, and finding your own space to incorporate the things that you believe in, and are passionate about. um, Something that comes to mind when I hear that is, you might find it interesting to know that you don't learn anything about, I don't want to say anything, you're given resources, but you don't you cuddle therapy training is not about how to cuddle at all. It's not about how to hug. It's not about different kinds of hugs. It's not about how long you hug when, or how long you cuddle when, at all. It's really about effectively holding space and really
Mm,
understanding what that means,
yeah,
and how to make things extremely safe and empowering, to add the layer and really work in that layer of also being held and holding, and being, you know,
oh, I
you
see.
know, right?
Yeah,
Right?
holding space. Okay, so it's not physical, but it's more
It
of
is physical. Sessions are physical, but cuddling is not required. Touch is not
not
required,
required.
right?
Okay.
That part, because this is truly rooted in boundaries and consent. It's really rooted in, honoring, being aware and in tune, and giving yourself an abundance of respect and love and grace, to tune into your yes and your no,
Yeah,
and to express it without consequence, both the practitioner and the client, right? So as a professional cuddlist, you're not hiring me to say yes to all of the hugs and cuddles you want to do. You're hiring me to be embodied in myself, to
yeah,
own my own boundaries, to take really good care of myself, so that you're not having to take care of me. You're taking good care of yourself, and I'm supporting that. I'm empowering that, and we're, co-creating, collaborating, and creating an experience that is tailored and catered to your needs. But I'm being genuine. I'm being genuine with me. I'm being genuine with you. I'm appreciating that you are paying me my rate, because, with any service, with any care, that's important, right? That solidifies the roles and the honor of this space and what this is, because it empowers me to, know that I want to give you my absolute best and most present self in this, because I've committed to this path and this role, and to giving you the care that is due a client, right? So my friends and my family and anyone that I'm talking to, they get the best that I can give to them, but they also get just me as a human, and where I need them in different ways, and all the attachments of those personal relationships. And that's genuine, that's pure to a personal process. But when you hire me as your cuddlist, you're getting the best in the wealth of what I've studied and what I've been trained in, and my ability to connect, me as a genuine human, but with the posture of a professional, aiming to hold space at a different standard, and leave, personal relationship stuff out. Because something you
right.
mentioned earlier was, um
Mhm.
I think we were talking about, like, just that weird, like, resistance that comes up everywhere, even with me initially when I heard about cuddle therapy. Like, you're not my friend, you're not the person I'm dating, you're like, why am I gonna lay down and cuddle with you? You know, and the thing is that unfortunately we also don't really talk about that much is not everybody is cuddling and hugging their friends and their family
Yeah.
and the
Mhm.
significant other. Touch deprivation is a real thing. Life, the way it unfolds, and arguments and traumas and different things, and some people and some cultures just not being quite as physically affectionate. Not everybody has that access to touch. Not everyone has that access to intimacy or affection. Or if they do, it might come with so you're still at that job, why are you there, why are you doing that? It might come with whatever personal things, you know, just might have innocently come up in that conversation that are impeding the potential of what that space could offer. That's what you hire a professional for. They're not in your business, in your life, with their own attachments and opinions, right? That's not coming up in that way. It's different when a moment is really dedicated to your health and well-being. And I'd say that for any therapy too, for talk therapy as well. It's not just going to, you know, advice and vent for your problems. Is different when someone doesn't have those attachments and is educated in how to hold space and center a conversation to your well-being, you know, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. Yeah.
No, it does. It definitely makes sense. Um, you know, holding space really um invites warm conversation. Um, the idea that somebody is listening without, trying to project anything onto you, trying to say or have their own opinions and things, and like really just backing up and saying, just do your thing, and I'm just here to support where you're at. And that's okay. Whether you're breaking down or you're coming up, I'm here for you, and that's okay. And that type of support is really powerful because it's hard to get sometimes from people, because whenever you tell a story and then somebody comes back and tells you their story, and then it's like, is there a competition between what we're talking about, like, or is it a real conversation? Because that's something to be aware of too when you're talking with people, and you could tell if they're just listening for to have a response, or listening to really understand what you're talking about. And then can just, because not everything deserves a response. Sometimes people just need what they call it, a sounding board, to just, you know, have that space to talk, have that space to just cry, have that space to feel and exist without there being rules attached to it.
Maybe absolutely yes to all of that, and you stated it so beautifully. And I'll just add, maybe you book a cuddle therapy session to build some of those skills. Maybe you don't know that you're not a great listener. Maybe you don't know what it means to hold space and what it means to just receive something and different ways to respond. You know, so there's a lot of opportunity to just develop skills in there and just work on things. And you know, maybe you don't know what to do when someone just starts crying and feels that release, and you're like, I'm here. And maybe you're not the person who needs that release, but you want to get better at that, so that you can be more supportive to your partner, to your friend, and to your family member, to your coworker, whoever it is. So you know, it's, I think there's just so many options and possibilities, just information that people don't have access to, even if it's just because they don't they don't see that as a thing that can be learned, you know, or as a thing that's worth taking the time to pause and learn. um, your personality is your personality, but you're also able to learn, you know. You can learn something, and it won't it, you might find yourself sharing it or experiencing it in a way that's so unique to your style and your personality, you know, to where you're just evolving within that. I think some people are scared to learn certain things. It's like, that's soft, or that's this, or you know, I can't learn that or do that because I see myself and identify this way. But there's so much more, and I think as we get older, things hurt when you realize, oh, this is just not working. This is just not working here. You know, I want this to feel better with this person, or I want to feel better, you know, making this attempt, or I want to get past this point, but I can't. Yeah, because, you know, we all come from a certain starting point, and there's only but so much of things that we come with. There's only but
Yeah.
so far those things can take us. You know, you can go so much farther when you're willing to learn. And um, you know, there's so many things that align between music and code therapy. And even for me, this space that's created when I get on stage and bring something up, you know, and invite an audience to be still and be present with me, you know. I don't know if there's a word for it, but I think, and I'm sure in your work you can relate to it. You know, in a session, just you can feel like the mutual flow state reach,
Mm,
like, oh, this
yeah.
this is this is good, right? That it's, isn't it such a great human thing that happens, whether, I think, you know, you're at church and it's just great prayer happening, just like this, you could feel that spirit in there, or at a concert where it's like everybody's just like one and it's awesome, or in a session where it's like you just feel seen and you feel like, I think I get this now, or you know, I'm sitting with this truth and it's okay, and I'm with this person that I trust. There's, I think we're always looking for that state of being in truth, and it being okay, you know, of being connected and being present, and it being okay, and and it being with other people, you know. I think there's a different thing when you're in solitude and you're going through this process, or you're learning something, and that is invaluable, that's amazing, right? It's
Mhm.
great to write a new song and sing it and love it, and ain't nobody there but you. That's wonderful. But things get tested when you go out to share it, you know, whether you're now trying to apply lessons that you've learned in a new environment, maybe with new coworkers or with new in-laws or whatever it is, or with a new audience. Your
Yeah.
heartbeat's doing something different. You might be, you're like me, your hands just shake, you know, or
Mhm.
maybe you just start sweating because it's a different thing. And so to stand in your authenticity alone is beautiful and important, but it is different to let it be witnessed, you know, to do it in front of other people, and that's a different muscle that you can build. Um, I think in a number of experiences, but cuddle therapy or my Yale sessions, I think just, you know, they're just their own unique experience. But, you know, whatever new experience you go to do to uncover and connect with different parts of yourselves around others outside in the open, you know, I think there's profound potential for growth and for healing when you're willing to do that.
Yeah. Emphasis on willing to do it,
Yes.
because when people are avoidant of their own actions, you can't help them no matter how many resources you have, no matter how good of a relationship you might have with that person when it comes to having rapport or anything like that. You cannot penetrate that person's psyche if they're not ready to be penetrated, if they are not ready to do the work. Okay? Um, that is a hard truth that I had to learn, because I went through a cycle when I first started of really trying to people please, trying to be there for the person, trying to almost do the work for them, because I'm like, okay, this is where you're at. Let me show you how to, walk this path, and I'm here with you, and so I have these resources for you, and then I end up coming off as too much, almost um, too intense, they would say, because they're not ready. And so then you lose that relationship because that person feels like you're pushing too much, when it's really interesting to see, because from your perspective, you're thinking, well, I mean, this is what you asked for. You came to me to talk about this, and you came to me to share this understanding. And then you ask for me for my input, and then I give you the input, and then you don't take it, which for a person that's trying to help, that can come off as hurtful and confusing. And then for the other person, it can come off as, just because I came to you doesn't mean, I want you to fix my life. Sometimes, like we said before, sometimes people come to you and just want to share. They're not really looking for a solution. So using your discernment to figure that out will help both of you um, move along on that journey to, navigating those issues. But yeah, like I said, if they're not ready, they're not, uh, you can do whatever you want to, but it's not going to work. And that's okay, because everybody isn't for everybody. And understanding that too is important. Um, but yeah, I love the fact that you're sharing this with us. I've learned something new. Um, and I appreciate your patience with me, just because I know I was kind of like misunderstanding it at first. Um, but I like that it's a combination of, and really understanding that, you know, that space, that's such a sensitive space to be in when you are having those conversations with people. It's a sensitive moment, because usually emotions are heightened, and being able to level that off, being that balance, to say, okay, the emotions are high, but be how can we sit in this and experience it in a healthy way? And helping people to do that is so important. Um, because navigating things in a healthy way is different from just navigating it in general. Um, because it's easy to get frustrated, especially when you live in life as a human and you like, I'm sick of this and everything's horrible, and I'm just gonna do this what I know I need to do to get past it, so I don't have to think about it anymore. And that's not realistic, because you're still gonna think about it. Even when you get past it, it's going to show up in your life again and again, because you didn't do the underlying work. You did the surface level. You got past it, that's surface level. But the depth of it is the understanding, the feelings behind it, the mentality behind it that caused you to make those decisions, um just really being in that. um I really want to make that clear. Sitting in it is very key, but also understanding that you can still sit in your experiences and navigate that, but still move on through life. Like, don't let it become a depression. Don't let it become a cycle that you stick in, where you're like, I'm here and this is it, and I'm just stuck and I can't move on with other things. No,
Something, do you mind if
mhm.
I cut in?
Yeah, cut in.
Something that I share with my clients is, um, before we move on, can we squeeze all the juice out of it? You know,
Ooh,
there's a number of ways to get to an outcome, or to move on, or to move forward. But are you robbing yourself of an opportunity to get more out of that moment, to get more out of that
mm,
experience? You know,
yeah,
um, we can power through, we can desensitize, we can detach, we can stop caring, right?
yeah,
We can deactivate a part of ourselves and activate another part. um but what does what do these different parts of you actually deserve? What does the person or the people that you care about the most, that you want to give your all to, deserve? How can you give your all if you're leaving so many parts of yourself behind to get to a next step or a next point? And so, I think, there's people who are going to listen to, folks use some of the words that we're using. They're like, what are you talking about? Why does that
mm,
matter? Like, I got this bill to pay. I got things going on, and I think that's a valid way to feel. But sometimes I think we so often can look back and find where, like, I wish I had known this then. I wish I
Mm.
had done this then. Or I wish that other person had known this or had been ready to do this. So what opportunities to nurture more readiness for something, or to expand your wisdom or your understanding of yourself, what opportunities might just be passing you by because you're not pausing to really, really think about them and really, really tune in, and really, you know, not just close your heart and keep it pushing. What opportunities might you be missing to actually be your best that you want to share or that you apply so much? Because life is so much more than just, how hard can you work, how much can you work, how much money can you make to, define your humanity. There's so much more, and there's always going to be more asked of us in different moments. So how much more of you can you make ready and available for you and for people that you care about, or for opportunities that you're waiting for or praying for or wishing for, for the very thing that you want? What might you be missing because you just excuse yourself from the opportunity to develop it, you know? So that's my added couple cents on that.
Yeah, and it definitely is an opportunity that's heavily missed by a lot of people, including myself. Just because, your brain's always on go. Speaking on myself, I'm just always like trying to do the next thing, trying to do the next thing, but not really giving myself that chance to really, and it's a self-love ritual, really, if you want to say it like that. To really experience your emotions is a self-love ritual. Um, and then of course, if you don't do that, then, harsh word, is abandoning yourself.
Yeah.
And, it's hard not to do, but it's also easy to do if you really want to experience what self-love. Um, but that's
Mhm.
I don't know. I think this is a vulnerable moment in realizing that that might be something that, or that is something that I need to work on more. That I just haven't been. Um, so I appreciate you coming in and talking to me. Because I think you've enlightened something within me. And hopefully people who watch or listen to this, um, and help them realize that there might be something missing in their inner work that they're doing. Um,
I mean,
yeah.
please give yourself grace. Thank you for being present and authentic enough to even receive that and share that. That's so awesome. And you know, life is so messy, you know? Life is so weird. There's so much weirdness to go around and to find yourself in. I think if you're doing this work, we're just always learning and evolving. Um, there's things that I'm amazed that I even did certain things or got to a certain point with what I didn't know that I didn't know. There's a lyric that I have. There's a song that I have where one of the main lyrics is, um, "Come home." I'm talking to my dad who passed, and his papa, "Come home because I don't know what I don't know," and that was just one of the most loud things that I was experiencing internally at that time that is not quite as painful now, but it's still very much true. And you know I thought my life and I would be in such a different space by the time I got here. I'm 31 years old, and it's like there's so much that even even being mental health focused, even having the tools and the gifts that I've had, and the privileges that I've been given and different things, it's like you just that work and that continued process of discovery and is just life. So, I encourage you and anyone else to not be too hard on yourself, because you're an NLP book shared with me the idea that people are really doing in each moment, in moments, whatever they're doing, wherever they're at, a part of them believes that it's necessary to survive. It's a part of them trying to survive. And
Mhm.
right. And so, may may we meet every form and version of ourselves, every chapter, every mistake, every great, decision, with that sense of, grace. There was something else that, you could have done worse, or been trying not to do. Some part of you is probably just doing the best that it can in this moment, so um even I'm still digesting that after years. We practice. It's called practice for a reason. I think that's what I'm really trying to say. All of this habits and stuff, it's all practice. What are we practicing for? For the next day, for the next moment. It's all practice for a reason. It's ongoing. And so, I encourage you to just, it sounds like you've picked up on such great things, and you've invested in, amassing these ideas and these skills. Just continue to practice. It is just practice.
Yeah. And then I think we're going to end on that note. But I'm going to share her links in the description below so you guys can get some of this goodness, some of this good knowledge that she has, the good energy. Um, and we'll catch you on the next wave. I'm excited. I learned a lot. Thank you so much, Sherry. It was so great to talk to you. And
It's
thanks
great to
for
talk to you
sharing
too.
yourself with my people.
Happy to do it. Thank you for having me and for asking such great questions and creating a space where I could share this stuff. I really appreciate you and hope the best for you.
Yes, thank you so much. Bye, y'all.